Basketball Hall of Fame class yesterday. Stephen A., no surprise there, well-deserved. But how will Shaq be remembered?
Well, I think that next to Wilt Chamberlain, he'll be recognized as the most dominant force in basketball since Wilt Chamberlain, in terms of his size, his math, the agility, the gifts that he had. You know, he's a four-time champion, league MVP, should have had at least 2 league MVPs because Steve Nash should not have gotten it one of those years. But at the same time, I think for me personally, when I look at Shaquille O'Neal, I'm going to think 2 things, one negative, one positive. I'm going to think about how he does shoulder some responsibility for him and Kobe not playing their entire careers together. It wasn't all Kobe's fault. Shaq has something to do with that too. There were things that Shaq could have done differently in embracing the Black Mamba. He didn't do that, and I think he knows that. So even though he's got 4, with Kobe and Shaq, had they stayed together, I think all of us recognize they probably would have had 6 or 7. That's number one. That's the negative. The positive is that the big fella is truly one of the kindest individuals, one of the most affable individuals you'll ever meet, whether it's him, you know, coming up with nicknames, Aristotle, Shaka Claus, or the list goes on, the Diesel, you know, on the basketball court, you know, or him dancing with the Jabberwockies and all of that in 2009 at the All-Star game in Phoenix, you know, standing outside in Baltimore pretending to be in Boston rather, pretending to be a statue, you know, joking around constantly, the Love Shack in Orlando when he first arrived there. You know, there were so many things that he's done. He's put smiles on so many people's faces. I remember when he came on my radio show last year, Skip, and I interviewed him, and he talked about starting, you know, getting Christmas gifts for all the kids, and he told a story about how his father once couldn't, you know, afford to get them gifts or whatever, and, you know, surprised them with one particular gift because he thought he wasn't going to have Christmas gifts, and he went into his room, and his father had gotten him a basketball. And then another time when his mama went to donate some stuff, and she didn't have enough to donate for all the kids, so she asked for his help to donate just for a few kids, and he said, no, if I'm going to get it for one, I got to get it for everybody. All the kids have to get it, Mom. They can't be left out. So for thousands upon thousands of kids every single year, he goes out and gets them Christmas gifts and things of that nature. You know, owning property in Louisiana and you know, getting housing for the disenfranchised and the impoverished. The charitable donations, the philanthropy, this brother's soul is so large, so huge, so big in so many ways. If folks only knew all the good, they think they know all the good that he has done. Yep. Of all the things that we do know about Shaq, Skip, there's so much more that he's done to touch the lives and the hearts of so many people, and it's a beautiful thing. He's a Hall of Famer as a person, yep, not just as a basketball player. He's a really special dude. He really is.
I agree with everything you just said, but I'm going to take it one more level. Obviously, Shaq's heart is big and Shaq's heart is good. Now let's just talk about his impact. This was, to take what you said, that this was the most dominating force in the history of basketball. This, to me, was beyond Wilt, beyond Kareem, beyond Bill Russell, beyond anybody else you want to throw in there. What he did in '99, 2000 was staggering to me because it was literally unstoppable. It was unrefereeable. And even though Shaq thinks he's pretty, his game was not pretty to watch. It was just unstoppable. What he did to David Robinson and Tim Duncan in the playoffs that year, he just ragdolled him. He just tossed him out of the way. And a lot of the greats don't love Shaq's game, or didn't love it, don't have the greatest respect for it, because it had almost as much football in it as it had basketball. But as huge and powerful as Shaq was, as you know, Stephen A., he was agile. He was highly skilled. It didn't translate to the free throw line, where he was second worst to Wilt all time of free throw shooters. And again, he tried and tried. He worked on it. He was a 53% free throw shooter. So if you want to taint his game with the free throws, that's fine. But in the end, when he was right and when he was in shape, he was just unstoppable. So I give it up to whatever that force was, however you want to say that he did it. No one's ever done it at that level of unstoppability, unrefereeability. I give it up to Shaq. This was the greatest force I've ever witnessed.
I give it up to him too, but you know, we're like brothers. We're very, very tight. We were just hanging out in Houston last Saturday night. Listen, there have been times where there's a bit too many Big Macs he was eating.
No, I hear you.
You know,
no,
I mean,
that's true.
His conditioning.
I agree.
Wasn't, he could have done more. Shaq has 4 rings. He's a champion. He's the most dominant player. All of that's fine.
Hey.
But Shaq should have had at least 6 rings.
Now, I'm with you. And when you look at what Tim Duncan is doing as we speak, as he nears age 40, Tim Duncan, I don't think he's going to retire. I think he's going to play into his early 40s as Kareem did because they take care of themselves.
Yep.
And Shaq did not.
Congratulations to Shaq, and I love that he's paying it forward as well. Speaking of domination, gentlemen, you know where I'm going. Those Lady Huskies, heavy favorites to cut down the Nets for the 4th straight year, but the guys will try to